This is Geek News Central. My name is Todd Cochran, and the story that leads today's show are as follows. Artificial intelligence that could get you hired or fired. We're going to talk about expansion of public Wi-Fi in the UK. We're going to talk about what turned out to be okay, but a crazy story of a YouTube video teaching an 8-year-old how to drive. You can imagine how that ended. We're going to talk a little bit about the state of Tennessee and how it's still making it hard on muni broadband. We're going to talk about T-Mobile and their $8 billion spectrum purchase today, and the big score that they made. So we'll talk about that. Plus all the news of the day. I want to welcome you to episode 1193 of the Geek News Central podcast for Thursday, April 13th. This show is sponsored in part by GoDaddy.com, or listeners just like you, and listeners just like you. Great deals from GoDaddy can be found at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. You can support this show today at geeknewscentral.com/insider, or simply paypal.me/geeknews. You can get back Ohana gear at cafepress.com/Ohana store. I want to give a warm welcome to all the brand new listeners of the show. Thank you for being here. Thanks for checking the show out for the very first time. And of course, if you're a long-time listener, we want to thank you for staying part of the family, being part of the Ohana. And a shout out goes to Sam Garcia tonight. Sam, I went through all 40 of your episode art images. They've been cycled all the way through completely once, and I'll be back at the top of the stack. So Sam has been providing, for those of you that see the episode art in the episode listings for the podcatchers that support it, you'll notice that there's been a fresh set of album art every episode, and for the last 40 episodes. So again, thanks Sam Garcia for doing that. But going back to the new listeners, hey, we want you to visit geeknewscentral.com, and really, it's a piece of cake to do that. Once you get over on the website, it's just a couple clicks away to get subscribed to the show. You can subscribe on iTunes, Android. You can even use email, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, or old-fashioned RSS feed. Don't forget about the ability to subscribe multiple ways, so there are more subscribe options if you have no idea what I'm talking about. But definitely get over to the website and visit on a regular basis. We got lots of great content being written by my writing team. As you may have seen, as if you're watching the show, there's an article about Pokemon Go and some events that began today, and some stuff about drones and Feedly and a whole bunch of stuff that's going on. So definitely get over to Geek News Central and check out all the regular blog content in addition to the podcast content. So what else here? Just to real short. Of course, we want you to send feedback to the show if you've got a chance to do so. See if I can get that up on the screen. Geeknews@gmail.com is a place to do that. Of course, you can reach out to me on Twitter @GeekNews. And if you want to join our Slack channel, which has been a little more active recently, you can join the Slack channel by dropping me an email and asking to join the Slack channel. Of course, you can follow me on Google+, on Facebook, just by searching for Todd Cochran. You can watch this show on the Roku, on the Apple TV. You can listen on the Amazon Echo by telling Alexa to play the latest edition of this show's name. You can listen on Stitcher, watch or view on Blueberry.com, or you can tell Google Home to play the podcast Geek News Central. And I did something cool with Google Home today that I'll share with you here. Hopefully I put it in my show notes. But anyway, that's the way to get connected and to listen to the show. Of course, our partner shows include No Better Than Average with Jacob and Jeff, The Gadget Professor, Mr. Don Bain, the Pro Gear site being written by my GNC team, the new media show, which is done by myself and Rob Greenlee every Saturday morning. And soon to restart is the podcast Legends show. Of course, this show is sponsored by the longest running continuous sponsor of any podcast known to man, and that would be GoDaddy.com. And we want to thank GoDaddy for their longtime sponsorship of the show, and we want you to take advantage of the April deals. That's what it's all about. Save money at GoDaddy. They've been here since July of 2005. So that gives you a little insight on how long they've been sponsoring the show. But all that time, all of you that listen or watch the show have been using the promo codes to save huge amounts of money on GoDaddy. As near as I can figure it, there has been about 70 to 75,000 of you that have taken advantage of GoDaddy promo codes over the years, probably more than that. I think that was the figure at 10 years. But anyway, we've had a huge number of you take advantage of the promo codes, either by getting a 99cent.com, saving 30% on new product purchases, getting $1 a month economy hosting, $1 a month managed WordPress hosting for the first 12 months. It includes a free domain on each of those offers of the 1 month free trial of GoDaddy website builder. All those codes, again, can be found on the website at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. And be one of the 300 plus people that pick up a GoDaddy product service from this show this month. We definitely appreciate your ongoing support. And I want to thank GoDaddy for being a longtime sponsor here, of course, of the podcast. Okay, so let me go ahead and see what I've got in my short stack of stuff to talk about before we get going on the show. Of course, many of you are listening to this on Good Friday, so if you are of Christian faith and you're celebrating Good Friday and, of course, Easter this coming Sunday, happy Good Friday and happy Easter to you. And, of course, I want to thank my executive producer, Kirk, for getting the show prep done tonight. Kirk did a great job. Basically, I went through the stack that you had pre-selected, and I think I picked about 80% of the content. I went through and did a little tweaking of looking for stuff on my own, but I think we're going to find a good battle rhythm here as we move forward. So it's one of those things where it's just going to be a relationship that will develop over time, and I'm really happy to have Kirk on board, helping in the show production and really saving me at least an hour, hour and a half of show prep. And he's basically dug through and found the best stuff, and then I go through and filter from there. So awesome job. Of course, our next goal is to get Podcast Legends on track. And really what the challenge is right now, with my son doing 2 soccer games every Saturday, my normal time to record Podcast Legends was Saturday immediately following the new media show. But with the soccer schedule, that's just out. Very hard to ask someone to record on Sundays, so I'm going to have to find a way to make that happen. Maybe we have to wait till after soccer season's over, then I have to double up or something. But we'll start getting that worked out here directly, because my wife works on Saturday, so she's not, and plus she already puts up with me doing 2 shows, both Monday and Thursday night. So, I got to do the dad thing as much as possible too. So, some things have to give, and that's it. We did record a new edition of your podcast over at PowerPressPodcast.com. That'll go out on Monday. Mike Dell and I did that this morning at 5 a.m. my time, so I'm looking forward to that episode being online. Did do some drone flights this week, and my son had soccer practice. Yeah, I'm talking soccer on Wednesday. So I took the drone with me. There's 2 fields they play on. They play in upper field, and then they practice on upper field and lower field. They were practicing on the lower field on Wednesday, so I went to the upper field where there was nothing going on, and it was really windy. But I've flown the drone a lot in the wind, so good location to fly. I wanted to get some practice in. It took off, did the kind of the local circuit, below the trees, and got some good practice in. And then I said, okay, let's go up to altitude. Let's get some good video. I got up to about 300 feet and kind of went out a little ways, and I still had plenty of battery power. And I said, well, it's kind of windy, so let me test this. And I did a 180, and I was full forward, and the drone was just like sitting there. Now this drone can go 35 miles an hour, and I'm full forward, and the drone is not moving. And I'm like, is it that windy? So I let go of the stick to get it so it would just hover, and I could tell it was leaning forward just to stay in position. And I was like, wow, the wind is really different So that's kind of the first time I've ever experienced that, where the higher I went, I caught a different crosswind, and I was kind of down in like a bowl, and come up out of that bowl, and the wind was just fierce. So I came down about 80 feet or so, got out of that wind shear, and was able to come back and around. I was like, okay, enough for the day. But there were some people there watching me are like, is that normal? I'm like, that's where if you're over water, where your drone is going to go swimming and you have no chance of recovery because you were too stupid to realize how much the headwinds were coming back. And I never, in all the time I've been flying, I've never seen it just sit there and at full throttle, nose down, not be able to inch its way forward. And well, maybe just a little bit, but barely holding its own. It was kind of eye opening for me. But anyway, lesson learned there. Got a full weekend ahead. And one thing we're going to do this weekend is I'm working with my son. We're going to try to do well, I'm going to do a master clean of the studio. That means like dusting underneath all the gear, and it's a job to do a top to bottom clean in the studio, and it has to be done because of the red dirt here in Hawaii. It has to be done on a regular basis, or the gear starts being impacted. And so I've been asked by a whole bunch of podcasters to do a studio of my tour of a tour of my studio, and I'm going to enlist my young film producer, my son Chris, to be able to do the actual recording. So we'll see how that turns out. But anyway, um, that's the skinny. Also, the Podcast Awards website. It's just about it's ready. And ready for reveal anyway. But we're like 18 days early, so we're taking the extra time and doing all the copy editing and everything else that needs to be done. And I may reveal it sooner. I don't know. I'm kind of leery to do so, but I might. But we're excited to be able to bring that online. There's some stuff that's still being worked on, but everything we need to do for the next 60 days um, is essentially good to go. But anyway, that's a skinny here and what's going on. Again, I hope everyone has a good Easter. Many of you are probably taking extended weekends. If you're traveling out there, be safe. But if you have comments on today's show, of course, do not forget the place to do that. That's real easy. Just email me, geeknews@gmail.com, geeknews@gmail.com. If you're watching on YouTube today, don't forget we're live on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, make sure you say hi. I see Clint and Michael on board. So Clint says, score heavily, TMO. Okay, I'm being dense tonight, Clint. What is TMO? Too much? I'm gonna feel stupid here when he types it in. All right. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and get into the stack of content tonight. I've been pretty fascinated recently about a lot of articles about artificial intelligence, and AI, as we all know, is being heavily invested in with Google, Microsoft, Facebook. Everyone is doing a lot of AI stuff. And T-Mobile is abbreviation for T-Mobile. Okay. All right, cool. So there's an article out. There was a study published today in Science, which, for its part, makes me go, holy crap. First and foremost, there's a lot of, if you're a psychiatrist, or if you do social studies of people, or if you do research that gives tests, and basically you try to figure out how a person is. There's lots of theories, and some of it is just that, theories. But some of the tests, if you've done some tests, personality tests, if you self-admit, some of those are pretty close, right? But a study published today in Science, researchers tested the biases, yes, bias, of a common AI model and then matched the results in a well known psychological test that measures bias in humans. The team replicated in a logarithm all the physiological biases they test according to study co-author Alan Kaliskin, a postdoc at Princeton University. Because machine learning algorithms are so common, influencing everything from translation to scanning names on resumes, the research shows that biases are pervasive too. The article goes on to say that language is a bridge to ideas, of course, and a lot of algorithms are built on language in the real world. Megan Garcia said, the director of New America's California branch, who has written about this so-called logarithmic bias. So unless a algorithm is making decisions based only on numbers, this finding is going to be important. So if you have a artificial intelligence, and I'm not going to go into the whole results of this and what they did, but if you have an artificial intelligence that can look at written text, and number one, just by the written text, they can determine, are you a man, are you a woman, are you black, are you white? They're able to determine that, according to the study, through writing analysis. Not only that, they then can tell if you hold personal biases from within your writing, whether you have, if you're slightly prejudiced or if you have an issue with a different gender. There's things that they quote unquote say they can determine by people's writing. And by watching, um, using question and answer analysis, by determining how fast someone answers a question to the typical, you've all seen it where a psychologist is in a movie is held up two boards and and he asks you to tell you which one you like the best, or what there's these question series that they ask, and it's often they're using that in these studies or in this psychological profile to determine, number one, if you're nuts, and a whole variety of things that psychiatrists do. Well, if we get artificial intelligence to the point where it can watch this show, watch my patterns of speech, read my writings that are on my website, and come up with a profile of me that tells probably religious, political, um, prejudice, biases, sexual orientation, all this stuff that it could determine on us by just modeling every person. That, in my opinion, should scare the living hell out of each and every one of us. Because it doesn't matter. There are times we're all in a different state of mind. There are times you are happy, times you are severely pissed off, you're irritated, you're annoyed with a coworker, you're happy at it runs the gamut. It's how we are as humans. So if you have an AI that can pick up racial and gender biases from what we write and apply that to a profile that they're developing on us based on other factors like what we look at online, all this stuff, it isn't too long. And what I've been saying for years on this show is absolutely the truth, in that Google and these companies will know us better than anyone else. They will have a full psych profile on us. They'll know our quirks. They'll know our fetishes. They'll know everything. They will know the gambit on us and have a pretty good profile. Now, that's scary enough. But what happens when a Fortune 500 employs these types of techniques in the hiring process? So you've applied for a job at a Fortune 500. In the process, they know your name. They look you up online. They look at your Facebook post. They look at your Twitter post. They look at your social profile. They look at your Instagram pictures. They look at your Spotify snaps. All this stuff. Look at your writing. And then it's going to spit out an answer and say, well, he or she is acceptable or unacceptable or at a level that we feel. So you could end up losing a job because the AI determined that you may have a gender bias, that you might be prone to microaggressions. That's a new term, I believe it or not. We got a lot of people around here that in this country that can't handle a little criticism. So I feel this is very controversial because for the most part, a large number of it, and don't take me wrong on this, for those of you that have used psychiatric care before, because I, for one, believe that sometimes you just need someone to talk to. All right? Sometimes it could be a friend, it could be a family member. And when my dad died and my mom and I did that show, the Sherry Cast, for a while, it was a form of therapy. My mom worked and interacted with her customers, form of therapy, and she gives back and forth even today. We all need a help sometimes. But for the large part, many of you absolutely do not trust psychiatrists. And many of us that maybe need therapy would never, ever go to therapy. Because when you see stuff written like this, and they have these models, these psychiatric models that they're teaching AIs how to look at pieces that we've read, it's scary. We're not too far from the police knocking on the door and says, hey, the AI said that in the last 2 weeks you've been very aggressive in your writing and what you've been putting online, and we need to take you downtown and put you in the slammer for a couple of days to let you cool off because we think you're going to kill someone. Or interpersonal relationships at businesses, they're monitoring the air, what people are talking about, and all of a sudden your name is flagged. Hey, this guy might be prone to coming in here and doing work site violence. We need to, escort him from the property. Where do we go? Where does this AI take us? And if you don't think this isn't going to be applied against us, words, words are going to matter. People are already on absolute eggshells when they talk to people because you're afraid today that you're going to offend somebody because they're so sensitive that you really can't say anything. So, we've got this kind of in our society today. That's the way people are. And you're going to have monitoring. Oh, watch out. This guy's angry. We need to send him for some training and send him to the company shrink. So when I hear about artificial intelligence that's being designed to pick up racial and gender biases when learning from what humans write, and then tie that into where AI could be in the future, where they become self-aware, and then they decide, it could come to the point where, somebody comes and gets you and locks you up and you never get out. To take this a step farther and just kind of show you what Google's doing, and again, this is not specifically from Google. This came from an article published Today in Science, and this came out of UC San Diego. This is where this research came out of. Not surprised, but what something Google's actually doing, and let me bounce this up here so that you all can see it that are watching. The Google AI has learned how to doodle. And I'm waiting for the page to load. Actually, it's got an advertisement that popped up. So they gave it one example. A human drew the first one, and then they let the artificial intelligence draw the rest. And there's a whole series. The human drew a cat, and the AI doodled a cat as well. Then there was ones where there was, they did draw an object without copying a starting sketch. So it looks like they had rudimentary frogs, cats, crabs. What else? That was and then they moved on to faces and owls and fire trucks and just, stuff that kids, a little 5-year-old could easily draw, a chair. And it just goes to show what the artificial intelligence was able to determine and redraw. And if you just look at this, so if we're teaching the artificial intelligence and how to doodle, I don't know how that ties into, making artificial intelligence self-aware, but this thing is on overdrive. Will people have to become completely disconnected at some point to get away from this? If you read science fiction at all, you'll know that in many science fiction scenarios in the future, you have a society that is completely and consistently monitored for everything that they do. And it's to the extreme where people aren't allowed to wear a hoodie, or they have to speak a sentence into a computer in order to gain access to a building, because the AI determines whether or not they feel you're dangerous, and all kinds of crazy stuff in science fiction. But so often science fiction always becomes true. It's because these guys that are doing science fiction writing, they're thinking to the future in a much deeper level than even what we're talking about on this show. But if we've got an artificial intelligence at UC San Diego that is, basically at this point able to pick up racial and gender biases just by looking at our writing, it's got to make it go, So let's say you go into a company, big company, and they say, we're going to have you do a writing exam, we're going to have you give us a writing sample, and they give you a subject, and they say, just, write one full sheet of paper or type one full sheet of paper of your thoughts on this particular topic. And you get done doing that, you hit send, the computer looks at it for a millisecond, tells your examiner, that this candidate doesn't qualify because he's too borderline angry at women or something to that effect. So it makes you go, just a little bit. And I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Am I being crazy here in talking about this? Do you think this is coming? I don't see how it doesn't happen with some of the sanity that's going on today. I really don't. You have to speak into a microphone to clear yourself to go into some so-called safe place, which are on university campuses now. Got to have a safe place. Have we become such wimps? I just don't get it. But anyway, the link will be up in the show notes. These two links on these artificial intelligence articles. I really love to hear your feedback. Or on a more happy note, if you are in the UK and you have Virgin Media as an internet service provider, it's planning on expanding its public Wi-Fi network by co-opting with customers to enable home routers as hotspots. Only the most recent designed router that they have, called the SuperHub V3, will be recruited. What do I mean by recruited? Or will be distributed at first, and customers can opt out from the program if they wish. Virgin says the change will have no impact on customers because affected homes will be allocated extra bandwidth. The data available to the public is also kept separate and won't allow any of that run through the home connection. Now, okay, so you're gonna, they've done these hotspot experiments before, right? You buy a router from us, and we'll give you some free internet if you enable it as a hotspot. People can log into it. Well, that's all cool until there's an exploit found, and the next thing you know, people are in your home network. So, but Virgin Media is going to make this available, and people will be able to log on to Wi-Fi in your neighborhood if there is a participating public member or a participating customer. So the project is identical to what British Telecom has done, which also co-opted home routers. In both cases, the public hotspots are available at no extra charge to paying subscribers. Virgin Media's hotspots aren't available to non-subscribers at all, while BT can be accessed by customers from other ISPs for a small fee. In all honesty, I love this, but at the same time, I scratch my head. I know this is a major security issue, but if where I live here in my community, it really wouldn't help because every house has a Wi-Fi router, and you're not leeching off your neighbors. Um, no one has an open router anyway. So, but if you're in a very dense metropolitan area where there are, office buildings and apartment complexes, getting on Wi-Fi, if you're out and about, is awesome, especially if it's of your service provider. Here in Hawaii, Time Warner has hotspots all over the place, and I'm often surprised where I find a hotspot, and I'm sure they partnered with the business at hand to make it available. But I just worry about the security on these things. So anyway, if you're a Virgin Media customer, and that's just a heads up for you. That's coming. All right. When I was a kid, I lived in the country. I was driving a tractor in the fields, on lanes, through the woods, long, 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 long before I was eligible to have a driver's license. Matter of fact, I only lived 7 miles from school. So, like many farm boys of my time, we would, we wouldn't be in high school and be driving age yet, but we could drive the tractor into town, park it in the school parking lot, and drive it home legally. Again, we didn't have to have a driver's license to drive a farm implement. And usually our fathers were pretty, so, you'd always, at least in the community I grew up in, you'd see 4 or 5 tractors in the parking lot being drove, out of the parking lot by a 12-year-old. And the schools were cool with that at the time, believe it or not. And so we had wheels before anyone else had wheels. But my dad probably put me behind the steering wheel when I was 11 or 12. I was actually driving dump truck or an 18-wheel semi when I was 13 without a license legally. I was loading and unloading dozers and backhoes and cranes on it by the time I was 14 or 15 and pulling a full load, 35, 45,000 pounds of machine on the back end. And, going back roads, but that was the way it was when I grew up in the early 80s. But a young lad, an 8-year-old, he so decided that he wanted to learn how to drive. So he watched a couple of videos on YouTube. YouTube's a great resource when you can learn all kinds of things, such as how to paint your house, how to cook, how to apply makeup, how to build a home, and of course, how to drive. Now, not all these are by professional instructors, but you get the basic idea. Shows you how to get in a car, how to start it. P means park, R doesn't mean race, it means reverse, D means drive. Shows you the basic rules of how to get around. Well, the 8-year-old had dinner with his sister, and they were watching some TV, I guess, and mom and dad fell asleep. And so the 8-year-old grabbed his sister's hand, and they went out to the family van and got in, and he wanted some McDonald's. So the the kids stole the car and they drove off to grab some food, according to the report from Officer Jacob Kohler. He said the child drove a mile from his home with his little sister in the back of the van. The journey took the 8-year-old through 4 intersections, over a railroad track, and also required him to make a few right hand and a left hand turn. Witnesses told police he did obey all traffic laws and drove the speed limit. So I guess he gets to the McDonald's check in window and there's a little problem. The 8-year-old, like, I want a Big Mac. Can you imagine being the teenager or the adult that's working the McDonald's check-in line, and the 8-year-old rolls up and is getting ready to pay for his food? Oh my gosh. Oh, uh, the party came to an end, and no charges have been filed. It was decided there was no neglect in the case. The children were found to have been fed their regular meals, but according to the boy, he just wanted a cheeseburger. When a boy wants a cheeseburger, and you know, an 8-year-old, I can just see it. Can you imagine the knock on the door, and the parents are like half asleep and they're going to the door looking, where's the kids? And you open the door and there stands you know the 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 police officer, and he's got your 8-year-old and 4-year-old in hand. Can you imagine that discussion? Can you imagine the discussion after the door closed? Oh my. Uh wow. But hey, he did a good job. He's ready. Send him down the DMV, get his driver's license. Just oh my god, it's too funny. All right, Tennessee. Shame on you, Tennessee. And if you want to understand what's wrong with the American broadband industry, you need look no further than Tennessee. And I like Tennessee as a state. I really do. I spent, 2 periods of my life in Millington, Tennessee, just outside of Memphis. A school and C school. I had a great time. Met my first wife in Tennessee. But the state is consistently ranked as one of the least connected, least competitive broadband markets in the country, thanks in large part to Comcast and AT&T's stranglehold over politicians like Marsha Blackburn. Lawmakers like Blackburn have let Comcast and AT&T lobbyists quite literally write protectionist state laws for the better part of a decade, with an unwavering singular focus of protecting incumbent revenues from competition and market evolution. At the same time, AT&T and Comcast have received millions in dollars in taxpayer subsidies. The negative impact of this pay-to-play legislation is non-negotiable. One state-run study last year ranked Tennessee 40th in terms of overall broadband investment and availability, and found that 13% of households, or 834,000 Tennesseans, lack access to any high-speed broadband internet service whatsoever. The study also found that the vast majority of Tennessee residents still get internet access through slower services like DSL, wireless, or dial-up, either because that's all that's available or because they cannot afford the faster option. Well, they tried to shut this down the last election, and it was shot down because of dissenting votes being raised by Representative Patsy Hazelwood, who's a former AT&T executive. So she's basically a lobbyist turned politician, or basically an executive turned politician that's there to protect AT&T. So the state banned some municipal broadband folks from expanding their services to the users without any cost to taxpayers. But they were willing at the same time to throw subsidy at 2 giant companies. So if you live in Tennessee, or you live in a state that has limited broadband access, and many of you that listen to the show do, because I know where this audience listens from, and you need to start rallying to get on the phone and quite literally ringing and tearing people's ears off. Get busy, get active. This type of shenanigans has to stop. Especially when we've talked about Chattanooga and its utility run ISP. They haven't been able to expand beyond 10 gigabits. Or they have been banned from expanding up to 10 gigabits. So, and they can't go into any more markets. It's just pure insanity, especially when no taxpayer dollars are being used. So, give this article a view, okay? All right, congratulations, T-Mobile. They spent nearly $8 billion to finally put its network on par with the Verizon and AT&T, but they're going to have to wait till at least 2020 to get all the broadband they just purchased. They acquired 1,500 wireless licenses that span across the United States in the 600 megahertz range, and that's primo frequency. And here's the crazy part: there's no chips in any mobile phone right now to support that frequency, but it's coming later this year. So they $8 billion. They were only the only a mobile provider to buy in this particular auction. Comcast bought some, and it's being suspected that they might be buying for their news coming up mobile service, and also DirecTV bought a whole bunch of the same frequency, but no one really knows what they're going to do with it. But anyway, long story short, here the government got about $20 billion for this frequency auction that's been going on for about a year. But T-Mobile's putting their money where their mouth is, that's for sure. I don't know if it's going to be too late, but MakeUseOf.com is talking about Premiere. You can get Photoshop and Premiere Elements for Elements 15 for $75 today. So I have the link up in the show notes on that. It may be UK only. All right, so I'm just heads up here. Right? It's a little unclear exactly who can get this, but if you want to buy Photoshop and Premiere Elements, this is the light version of those two programs, available for $75. All right, link will be up in the show notes. Skype has updated an Xbox One app with some new features. So if you use Skype on Xbox, the app is now built on the same base as the PC and mobile version, but offers its own unique visual style to better fit with the Xbox One apps. You'll still need to connect to make video calls, although audio calls will work over any headset connected to an Xbox controller. The updated Skype also offers video calls up to 5 simultaneous users, or audio calls with up to 25. Link will be up in the show notes on that. Talking about solar energy, and I thought this was pretty amazing. It actually lays out how much solar energy has been added globally. In the year 2000, the entire world had roughly 4 gigawatts of solar power capacity. Fast forward over the last 15 years, solar energy capacity expanded to 5,700%, reaching 227 gigawatts. The International Energy Agency revised its solar estimates upwards 3 times over that span, but its most recent estimates of 400 gigawatts of installed capacity by 2020 is already falling behind the curve. Solar's growth in 2015, the most recent year, shows that an additional 57 gigawatts worth of solar panels were shipped. That's enough to add 400 gigawatts new capacity in 7 years. So, but what's going on is the price is staying about $50 per megawatt hour, which, if you want to know how that compares to coal and natural gas, which are the most efficient energy creators, and we're not talking about clean, we're just talking about efficient, it's about 3 times cheaper. So solar is about 3 times more efficient in power generation than coal or natural gas. But then again, it's the same issue. The sun isn't up 24 hours a day. So, there's ongoing issues with that, and having to have a smart grid and be able to have other capacity come online when solar goes down. And of course, normally power consumption goes up at night because we're back in our homes, we're cooking, and there's a peak. period, but daytime industry is running, so there's this big trade-off. But anyway, um, it's interesting to look at it from a global scale, but solar is going to continue to grow. Hey, something interesting: the Trump administration team or the transition team, when they were before the inauguration, had asked NASA about mining the moon. So we know that NASA only took a 1% budget cut. And part of their query to NASA was, is there something on the moon that can be mined? And NASA really doesn't know. They have some idea, but the agency wrote back basically saying that they would need a mission to the South Pole of the moon to be able to do some deep core samples to be able to tell what's available. But they did remind the administration that the Outer Space Treaty signed by U.S. and 104 other countries basically requires us to share spatial space assets and space research equally. So I didn't fully know that as well. But there's a 94-page response from NASA, and there was basically the motherboard got this through a Freedom of Information Act, so I have that linked up in the show notes. So what are we going to do? We're going to go dig for gold on moon. Google Maps is bringing you more Golden State beauty. So if you haven't been to California and you want to see some of the natural beauties of California, they've added 6 destinations to the California State Park Street View Collection. In the Big Basin Redwood State Park, you can gaze up at the California famous redwoods, which I've seen, which are just incredible. Take in the spectacular scenery and learn about the history of the park. Check out those street view snapshots as well as behind-the-scenes shots of Semperviron's fun using Trekker and the 360-degree cameras to collect imagery. So they've done this in street views on Google Maps. So 6 different areas within California. Anyone that has watched Star Trek knows what the tricorder is. And they had a competition to have folks that basically develop a tricorder. The 4-year Qualcomm Tricorder X Prize competition announced a winner yesterday and awarded a top prize of $2.6 million to a Final Frontier Medical Devices, a Pennsylvania-based team. The competition, run by the X Prize Foundation, challenged teams to create a mobile health monitoring device like the one featured on Star Trek. And they put together a pretty cool device. And so they give a second award out of $1 million. So it's all about medical technology that you would wear. It takes a whole bunch of readings and sends those diagnostics to a doctor. Or gives you a readout yourself. It's nowhere near where you're going to scan over the body and determine that there's a broken rib or anything like that. But these are about biomedical type of results. So pretty cool stuff that they've been able to come up with on this. And there's a full article of what the devices that were awarded money, or the groups that were awarded money, what the devices they came up with do. And maybe someday we'll see those on a store shelf or in a doctor's office near you. Samsung has confirmed Galaxy S8 pre-orders exceeded the Galaxy S7. Well, you think. A few people lost some mobile devices. Not surprised. Meanwhile, if you've got a Galaxy S6 series and a Galaxy Note 5, you're going to be receiving the Android 7.0 Nougat update over the next week or so. The 4 big U.S. carriers are rolling out Android 7.0 finally, so be aware of that. Also, Google Home can keep an eye on airline prices for you. So I tried this today. I'm trying to work a time. My niece is graduating high school. I need to fly out either on June 8th or June 9th, get home to Michigan on the 10th, be there for the graduation on the 11th, and zoom right back on the 12th. So basically, you can give Google Home a relevant voice command if you need to track a flight status, or you can also find out about pricing. And it will track how how much flights are between two different locations. So you do the OK and the word you say to make the Google Home device start. It was listening. Oh, okay. I'm glad you can. Thank you. It kind of triggered on me. Um, and you can say, is my flight on time? You can say, how much are the flights to Detroit between June 8th and June 11th? And it came back and it gave me the coach price. You can tell me how much are the first class tickets to Detroit between June 8th and June 11th, and all that stuff. And it will set up a notification system for you where we'll email you when the prices change or when they go up or down, when they find you a better deal. So I haven't locked in any tickets yet. It's I'm going to have to soon if I'm going to go, and if other commitments I have going on don't conflict. But it's kind of interesting that you can watch. Now what I did is I loaded up its results, and it was actually going to try to fly me on Delta. I'm like, United's not on that list. So I thought, oh, that was kind of curious. But I think it can tell it to watch which carrier you normally fly on. Big news out of Apple today. The Apple Podcast app is dropping the iTunes branding. Apple has decided to drop iTunes branding from its podcast app. So now the app that was previously known as the iTunes Podcast app is now simply referred to as Apple Podcast. It's a minor change, and Apple hasn't made a big deal about it. The change is being made in public and was made public in a couple of tweets this morning sent out by a couple of the lead folks on the Apple Podcast team. So we'll see where this goes. And I also got a note that they're going to shut some things down on one of the interfaces over the weekend. What makes me wonder if well, actually not on the weekend, on the 21st, which is next Friday, they're going to be rolling out some updates. So I wonder if they got some more stuff planned for us. I talked about a couple of shows ago about how to set up your own VPN. Well, if you're a geek and you want to set one up that's free, that runs on some cloud services, there's instructions how to do that in this article on lifehacker.com. And also, it gives you some instructions and some details on some VPNs that you can pay for if you just want to use a VPN without having to basically roll your own. There's a great article over on strangerparts.com. This is the first time I've been on this site. And this is a site that talks about, folks that have technological adventures. Well, this guy's living in China, and he built his own iPhone, an iPhone 6 specifically, from parts that he found in a electronics district in Shenzhen, China. So Shenzhen is where all the iPhones are being made. So he found spare parts, and is able to piece one together. So it talks about his journey doing that. So pretty cool that he put that together himself. For you Android users, if you are looking to do document scanning, the Dropbox document scanning has come to Android devices. So if you've got the Dropbox device or app on your phone and you scan a document, it will autocorrect it, straighten it out. It'll basically do the OCR, in other words, the character recognition, and put the document into your Dropbox, and then you can use any paper doc to be able to edit it. So pretty cool little feature. The iPhone 8's being rumored that they may move the fingerprint reader to the back. I doubt it. This would shock me if Apple actually moved the fingerprint icon to the back. This is an alleged factory render. If they did this, this is the ugliest thing that they would have done. I'm just almost going to say immediately that this is bogus. Let me give you see if I can give you a picture of what they. All right, so is it going to come up? Yeah, so maybe you can see it here. So imagine you've got the. I just don't see this. I guess it would interact where the camera is. It. I just don't believe that they're going to do it. I find it very hard to believe that they would they're going to put the home button on the back. a dot right in the middle? No way. If they do, that is stupid. But who knows? We'll see. Trying to get more glass space, so maybe they will. Home button right in the middle of the back. I don't know. I have to think about that a little bit. NASA's confirming 2 moons in the solar system are venting oceans into the space. Ocean World Exploration Program could find life on icy moons in the 2020s. The prospect for life existing in our solar system beyond Earth and finding it within a decade or two improved with 2 scientific findings announced Thursday by NASA. The space agency confirmed the presence of hydrogen in plumes emanating from Saturn's small moon Enceladus, and also reported that the plumes are very likely to exist on Jupiter's moon Europa. So, Europa. We're not supposed to go to Europa. You know that, right? All right. Link will be up in the show notes. If you have an electric vehicle in California, you're not paying enough in taxes. So your incentives for electric vehicle buying is going to basically be diminished. They're going to start charging fees for EV ownership in California. Here in Hawaii, they're switching to weight. Based upon your weight is how much your license fee will cost. Or if they don't do that, they're going to switch to the total miles driven. You're going to have to turn your mileage every year, and that'll basically be how much your license plate fee will be so that you can put money back into making sure the roads are fixed, because the roads here suck. But it's not going to be too much of an impact, those of you in California. On the low end, the fees are $25 for a vehicle valued at less than $5,000, but anyone with a $60,000 plus plug-in vehicle will be paying $175 a year to keep their license tags up to date. So don't worry, you fill up 4 or 5 times, and that's the cost of filling up for 4 or 5 times. It's nothing compared to probably what most people pay for license plates in Hawaii, in California. I know I pay like $500 for my CX-9. It's all based on vehicle weight. So, also a lot of speculation in the news that Apple may be getting closer to be able to do blood sugar readings through the Apple Watch. They've been working on this for 4 or 5 years. Apple is quietly developing a sensor that can monitor a person's blood sugar levels continuously and non-invasively. If successful, the technology will integrate into a future version of the Apple Watch to help people with diabetes managing their condition. At least that's the scuttlebutt being slung around. Apparently, they've had 4 or 5 heavy-duty scientific engineers working on this, and they've been running trials of the sensors and at clinical sites in the San Francisco Bay Area. In fact, progress has been so encouraging that Apple's already hired consultants to help navigate the torturous process of getting FDA approval. There's a race to the top on this, and in 5 years, diabetics, folks with type 1 and type 2 diabetes, are going to be able to just tap their watch and get their current blood sugar result. And for those that are with type 1 that are already on a pump, the pump's you're no more poking a finger. And I know some friends of our family that are in Michigan that he has to poke his fingers so many times a day. That's why oftentimes compliance is not kept up with people with diabetes, because they get tired poking their damn finger and getting blood samples. So if they can make this happen, this would be wonderful. There are 4.22 million people living with diabetes. Excuse me. In the world, there are 422 million people living with diabetes. That's up 108 million from 1980. A staggering increase for a disease is a major cause of blindness, kidney failure, stroke, and heart attacks. So watch your blood sugar out there, folks. Get in shape like I am. Work out. Lower your blood pressure. Drop the weight. I know this doesn't help the type 1 folks, but those of you with type 2, you can largely fix yourself. All right? Kim.com has asked the Supreme Court to hear him out. The founder of Mega Upload is trying to get his $75 million back. He's taking his case. He's appealing it to the U.S. Supreme Court. They haven't agreed yet to hear it yet, but he wants his cash. He'll never get it. I'll never let him have his cash. There's no way. Have you used Slack? I love Slack. Been using Slack a lot. Slack has had the ability for us to set a status message. A feature of it should have had for day one. So if you step away from your desk, you can set the status. Say, I'm away from my desk. I went to the dentist. I'm going to an appointment. Going to lunch. That way, when someone messages you, because what happens to me is I get a message, or I get someone Slacks me, and then 15 minutes later, my cell phone buzzes. Where are you? How come you haven't responded? And then 3 minutes later, my phone rings. Hey, I'm trying to get you on Slack. I'm like, dude, I'm at lunch. Well, we didn't know. And so now you can set your status on Slack, which is super slick, super slick. Tesla's going to reveal its finished Model 3 in July. So that's cool. Also, rumor is that there's a pickup on the way too. So the Model 3 production model in July. So we'll see. 18 to 24 months on the Tesla pickup truck. I am really totally bummed. Someone in this audience has got to help me out. I don't want to pay $300 to do it. If you can find a Nintendo Classic, the NES Classic Edition that was released, I was slacking off. I wasn't watching after the holidays. It's still impossible to get, and it's going to get worse. Nintendo's plug-and-play NES is done. They've discontinued the NES Classic Edition. As soon as this news went out, I was on eBay, I was on Amazon, and the prices had went up $100 just in a matter of hours. So now the cheapest you can find one is $300. I just wanted one to stick on my shelf back here. I just need a shell. I can use a fake one. It doesn't have to work. But if you got an NES Classic Edition and you like it, or if you bought two, hook a brother up. I just was like, crap. I thought, give it a little while, the supply system would catch up. Never has. It's never caught up. And folks that were in the right place at the right time got them, and now they're being sold at $300+ a piece. I'm not buying one for $300. Sorry, it's no way. As much as I want one, that's crazy. If Microsoft is being pretty slick. Microsoft has cut software updates and tweaks for computers powered by older generation Intel and AMD processors. The Redmond giant is no longer serving software fixes to PCs and other systems that run Windows 7 or Windows 8.1 on Intel's fresh new Kaby Lake or AMD hot off the fab Ryzen chip. Oh, new chips. New chips. And also an AMD 7th gen core series has also been affected as well. So no Windows 7, no Windows 8 for you. You must go to Windows 10 if you have a newer generation chip. We knew that they had done this somewhat already, but it continues to march forward and locking people out. If you're an Android user, Android Pay is integrating with mobile banking apps. Not a lot of participators at this yet. Discover, Bank of America, MyBank, or MBank, USAA, and BNZ. So if you don't have the Android Pay app downloaded, you can get it through a lot of mobile banking apps, or just get on the Google Play Store. All right, last couple of articles for this evening. Uber's rolled out a new safety feature and main ongoing PR struggle. You now can get dropped at a corner. You don't have to put the exact destination you're being dropped at. So that's kind of cool. Sometimes you want to get close to an area. Also, Google Photos version 2.13's added video stabilization, hints at possible Google Plus integration. Getting tired here at the end of the night, 9:10 local Hawaiian time. So I know that those of you that are watching, it's the middle of the night where you're at. So thanks for hanging out with me. I can't imagine you guys are all tired. But anyways, a lot of Google news, lots of stuff going on here. Let me see if we got any Any emails came in. Let's see here. I'm on the wrong email account. GNC comments. Let's look. Today is April 13th. Oh, yeah, we did. um, Nigel sent one. He said, Todd, I nearly fell off my chair with this one. So I'm wondering if this is the first virus that triggers Google Home, Alexa, and so on. You guys heard about this Burger King ad? Basically, they were making the Google device respond to a certain command that Burger King was going to send during the advertisement. Well, Google said we're not having any of that, and they preempted it. So their multi-million-dollar advertising campaign down the steamer. And it was basically Google Home was being instructed to read tell people what a Whopper was. Well, here's where it gets kind of crazy and where this was ill-fated to begin with. If you ask Google Home up to this point, what is the Whopper? It would read like the first two sentences from the Wikipedia page. And it, had some generic write-up. Well, someone from the Burger King marketing team went in and updated the Wikipedia page and then got set to launch this ad. Well, of course, immediately people went attacking the Burger King Wikipedia page and changing it, adding all kinds of, could have backfired. It could have said the Whopper burger is the worst burger in the world, full of worms, and that's what it could have been on Wikipedia. They just weren't slick enough to get the ad out without the news breaking. But anyway, Nigel goes on, how long before someone embeds a malicious request into a music stream and the pizza guy turns up your door or your bank account gets emptied? I turn everything off at the wall to save power, but we will all need to do this in the future to stop this. Will we all need to do this in the future to stop this happening? Nigel, all it's going to take, and I hope you're doing great down under. I want to come down there and visit your country someday. And you got to tell me what's it like where you live? But it's going to take one bad incident where millions of people are affected by something that one of these devices is going to do before there's some safeguards put in. I don't know. It's kind of scary, isn't it? You're not home, and or you are home, and something comes on, and there's a series of commands that are issued to your device, and it reacts to it. That's a good one. Nigel, thanks for sending it over. I'd seen it, but didn't have it up in the show notes today, so it was a good reminder. That's something too, folks. Just remember, there's 3 days between the shows, 3 and 4 days between each episode. So today's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and if you see something in the news, I typically we only go back about 12 hours. And unless something really's popped out that I need to bring forward, I do. But if you see some really crazy news story that you think I should comment on or provide you guys feedback on, please send that to me. Something that pops in between the shows. You guys can be producers too. And that's the beauty of this. So guys can help contribute to the content. If there's something I don't cover that you want me to, that's what email's free for. geeknews@gmail.com. Everyone, thanks for being here. We're on time. Can't believe it. We're just about done. Everyone be safe. Have a great Good Friday and a lovely Easter. And for everyone to get a little, some of you got Friday off, so enjoy that. But everyone take care. We'll see you back here on Monday. And remember, 2 more shows before I head off to Viva Las Vegas for the National Association of Broadcasters show, which I will be out for the two shows that week. But we continue the march to 1200. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the family. Thank you for supporting the sponsor. We'll see you next time here on the Geek News Central podcast. Everyone take care. Bye-bye.